All right, guys, welcome back to the DDM podcast. And this week we are going to be talking about the recent E-Town Gambler event that was brand new at the new English Town track that is on a dragway, and it's probably the closest thing that we have to Stadium Series drifting in America at this point. So, here with me today, I have Jonathan Nairn and Reese Marin to help talk about the event. These guys were both at the event. Nairn obviously won it, and Reese is one of the judges. So I'm really curious to see what you guys thought of the event. As you can tell, these competition events are starting to be more and more popular, or at least they're popping up more than I feel like they were in the past. And so I'm just kind of curious on how you thought this one went. What did you think of the new FD track? And I guess we can just go from there. If Reese, if you want to just start off with your angle at least.
Um, so I mean, I think the event overall was really well done, and it was like you said, there's a lot of these big pot competitions starting to pop up, and I think it kind of gives everybody like a stage to kind of showcase their skills. I think things nowadays are a little bit different, where I think maybe a decade ago when we were doing it, there wasn't a guarantee that you could do like a little bit of a tournament like this and have a good turnout of good drivers. And I think now we're at the stage of drifting where if you hold a tournament, there's a good chance you are going to get some really decent drivers that show up, that are going to put down a hell of a run, a member of a run. So I thought it was great. The stadium style stuff was great. The overall ambiance and the atmosphere and the vibes there were absolutely just amazing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, what do you think about the track, Naren?
Oh man, it was different for sure. I've never really ran anything like that, so it was fun, but it was trying on my end because it was, with a new track comes new setup, and really had to dial the car back from the last Clutch Kickers event. It was on, I don't want to say full tilt, but like 95% tilt. And so, Friday was really tough. I don't want to say it was tough, but it was just we were trying to get in as many laps as we can, constantly changing chassis setup to really get it fine-tuned where we could still be really fast, yet run behind some guys that weren't quite as fast and still look smooth while doing it. And that's always a battle with my car in particular because we have it set up pretty hardcore as far as grip-wise. So you can go too far on the edge of that and really look like a crap following somebody, and you can throw away the win in a top 32, for example, going against a guy that's not nearly as fast, and you're having to constantly check up or just look wavery and it's not smooth. So we were battling not only a new track but also setup and learning, and also a big obstacle for me was all these Jersey boys are shredders. So I was going against great drivers, but everybody drives differently and everybody's car setup is differently, and being able to adapt to that, not knowing 90% of the guys I didn't know, or I may have heard of them, but I never drove with them, so that was difficult also to be able to in one day pick up their driving style, their car, how they're running the track, how their car setup is, in order for me to understand how I need to chase this person or drive against this person. So there was a lot of things that kind of went into, all went into one. That we had a really fast learning curve as far as that goes. The track was really rad. You slip up, you go one little bit too far, and man, that thing it eats you. It'll take you in, suck you in hardcore. They made some, I think Reese was one of the guys that implemented the change on the track on Thursday to Friday, going into the outer zones off your first touch and go. They changed it from outer zone against the wall to a front inner clip. And I think that was a smart move for this event, just to keep guys off the walls and kind of keep them, a smoother show rolling, I guess, throughout the weekend. So it was, I was happy with that change. I guess being the first event and, me being the first time driving it, it was, when you don't got to run the edge of the track the entire time, it kind of gives you some wiggle room.
Right. Did track surfaces change at all that you noticed throughout the weekend? or like track grip levels, or like was there differences when you like went onto the drag strip area back to the pavement section or paved side?
So I was fortunate there. There's already been a decent amount of laps put down whenever I made my first lap. There was a transition, so from the drag strip service to the new service they had laid down, with the drag strip service being slicker. And it wasn't as noticeable until I did the victory burnout, and I was just solely on the drag strip when we were kind of just doing donuts and figure eights around all the photographers and videographers out there. It was super slippery, like real slippery, because there wasn't any rubber laid down, so it was. That was different. But I did notice it. When you transition across the centers, it was it was faint because there was already some rubber laid down, and it got better throughout the weekend. The track was actually grippier than a lot of tracks I've been on. It kind of blew my mind, but it felt really good. Like it'll definitely be an animal when some FD guys get in there.
So why, if it's a grippy, is it because it was a grippy track that you would have to pull grip out of the car? Or was it specifically just because of following reasons that you had to pull the grip out of the car?
My main reason was following. I can adapt to the car and drive because it makes a lot less horsepower than most people think. The car's making 650 wheel right now, but we have that balanced really well with the overall weight and weight distribution and chassis setup. So it's a balance. But my main reason this weekend was being able to make an adjustment in the car if I'm following somebody and not make it look so abrupt. So if the car is gripped up and you have to make an adjustment, it's clearly noticeable. So you take a little bit out of it and it makes the car smoother. So that allowed me to kind of play on throttle, play on left foot braking, or checking up the brake a little bit if I needed to, and the car didn't unsettle it so much. So it just looked at overall smoother chase. So that's why I kind of took grip out because it was already. There's only a couple other cars throughout the weekend that I would have to turn it up against, and with that's why mainly we took a lot out of it. Because if we needed to turn it up, we could, but there was. It was already a fast car, so we ended up taking a lot out of it. So in order to be smooth and make it look like I'm more, I guess, in control or, able to follow the lead driver and do what he's doing. And if I need to make a correction, it didn't look so bad towards Reese here.
Yeah. Well, so Reese, a couple of the comments on social media, I thought people were kind of disappointed because like, oh, it's just a figure eight and they have a way better track that's like right next door, and why don't they run that, kind of thing. But was it really just a simple figure eight, or was there a little bit more to the track than people are just claiming?
Well, I think for like the normal spectator or your kind of like hobbyist that does this like on the weekends, I think the issue is that they visually only see a figure eight. And I think it's our job as the judges and the organizers to come up with a way to utilize the run-up, how it's transitioned, the radius of this figure eight, because it is a figure eight, but there is some unique characteristics to it as well. And using those to our advantage to try to make it difficult, which I'm sure Naren can tell you we tried to make it as difficult as we could.
It was
the trick of it, being able to mark things out. Now, I do think that currently where we are in drifting, a lot of the people that watch drifting are still watching it because it's a show and there's a lot of smoke. But I think we're starting to get to the point where there are people that understand drifting and they're starting to see, oh, well, this person didn't hit the touch and go. This guy wobbled a little bit or wavered a little bit because he had too much grip in his car. So, it's not just the judges that have this information and kind of know. It's nice to see a lot of the spectators, at least in that area, especially pick up on it. They're like, yeah, that wasn't right, because they kind of know. They know what it's supposed to be now. So I do see a lot of people saying, well, it's just a figure eight. And, I thought about it too. I'll be honest with you. When I first saw the track, I was just like, man, like, it's just a figure eight. You know what I mean? And it's because I took a first glance at it, but I definitely need to take time to really see what they were trying to do. And if you think of Englishtown Raceway Park, keyword park as a whole, you kind of have everything you need there. You have You know, the skid pad go-kart track that's very easy on your cars because you won't hit anything. You have the road course that is worldwide famous for what we do there in drifting. And I think the last piece that was needed was a really good marketing piece for drifting. And I think having this stadium style that's been, from what I'm seeing, adopted from Europe allows to put drifting on a center stage. Maybe not the way we're accustomed to seeing it, because a lot of us came up through the grassroots, so we see things from a different perspective. We're always on the track, but the spectators aren't always on the track, so they want to see some things maybe in a different aspect. So what I've been telling people is when we see D1 back in the day, round one or round two, or I'm pretty sure it's the beginning. They do it in Tokyo in a very artificial stadium style format. And I think they do that to kind of ramp things up, to kind of give you a different setting. Although you do know you're going to see these drivers at, Nico, or all those tracks that they have in Japan. So I think what the Naps were trying to do is have a park that has all of those components. So when the professionals do come and they need to, showcase drifting on that type of platform, they have the stage for that. When they have grassroots drifters that come all around the world or the country to go to, the famous E-Town road course, they have that. And if they have something where it's like for novice people where they don't want to mess up their cars, but still have that vibe and still have that recognition of being there, they have that as well. So it definitely wasn't it definitely wasn't an easy thing, because it was hard. We definitely thought about how we were going to make this challenging and how we were going to make it safe. And as the competition went on, drivers did get better at the track. But you could definitely see people were struggling with, or a lot of the drivers were struggling with, if I don't get the first touch and go right, it messes up the entire run for me.
For sure.
And I definitely feel like that's a good thing, because when you're at that level, especially there, and I would assume almost anywhere when you're at that pro-am or right up there in that level, it's not supposed to be easy. And a lot of drivers put in input about maybe making it a little bit easier. But my argument is that I saw a 350Z with 220 horsepower nail everything correctly. So if he can do it, and a lot of other people did it, then it's not that it can't be done. It's just that I think eventually drivers are going to be able to do it more consistently and accurately. And I think maybe that 350Z was just in the power band that he needed to us, to kind of allow himself to get into where he needed to get to appropriately. He suffered on other ends, but I really think it was a good opportunity for drivers to show that they're adaptable to the driver that's in front of them, to who they're going to be going against and the circumstances. And especially when the night came, things changed drastically with the smoke and the visuals. So it wasn't just a figure eight. I kind of felt bad with all the cars that I saw get hurt, but I think now people understand that when we tell you we need you to put the car somewhere, we're very serious about that.
Well, I know, and you guys made it safer for this round, adding that extra inner clip. But do you think this is one of the gnarliest car killer tracks now? That, at least in the area?
No. I just think it's because a lot of people haven't driven it yet. They haven't gotten a feel for it yet. I think the drivers that we had show up here, and I think drivers typically are they're just going to get better. They're just going to evolve. So I don't think we need to make it easier. I just think it was a new track. It was a new setting. They got to get acclimated to it. And when and if they decide to do this competition again at this track, and if we decide to run it the same way, I think the learning curve is going to be a lot different now, because people have kind of figured it out, and you're going to have even better results for the next competition. So, or at least that's what I hope for. And from what I've seen everywhere I go, that's typically, look at clutch kickers from round 1 to round 4. Huge difference in the consistency. People figured out the track. People figured out what they needed to do. I mean, proof is in the pudding, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right. So in judging, where was the biggest mistakes that people would lose their battles on that you saw?
Well, the biggest issue, I guess it wasn't what I like to say a big issue. So many people were consistently not hitting the touch and go that it almost, it almost made it irrelevant at that point. You know what I mean? Because like if everybody stopped missing it, like just didn't hit it, then that's one nick. You know, that's one little point deducted from everyone. You know, not I'm not saying everybody consistently just didn't hit it, but it was just almost a guarantee. Like this person isn't going to fill that up. Where I saw it happening was like I said, was in the transitions. You know what I mean? Like in the transitions, and somebody didn't time something correctly, they would stretch a gap, or they timed it incorrectly, where they would dive in on someone, they would have to abruptly stop and then stop their momentum, which we would see, and then appropriately deduct the point. So the transitions is really, like I said, like at the drivers meeting, and still now I stand by being the place where everybody kind of messed up because I'm sure Naren can agree is like if you hit that entry right and if you get into the pocket of that big outer zone, you can pretty much just stay on it. But if you mess up and you don't get in there right when you need to, then you're like playing catch up with yourself and you have to deal with some dude behind you or in front of you. So placing the car was very important because once you can get into the pocket, it was just a battle of just staying in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the entry was very interesting. What was that entry like, Naren? Because it seemed like you could really play with the wall there. Obviously, you didn't want to hit it. That cost people.
One time.
But scary as hell.
Yeah.
It was fun. Like Reese was saying, for me that was the most crucial point of the whole run. It was because that sets you up for the rest of the track. If not, you're fighting yourself and you finally get back in the groove and you're across the finish line. So it was. From my standpoint, I think I told Reese this when we were talking after the event, was like I had to constantly tell myself in my head, hit that touch and go. Every time I was about to take off, hit that touch and go, hit that touch and go. Because if not, I don't want to say it wasn't natural, but I was just entering in. I was focusing on the wall and then driving out of that, going to that next clip. After I came up to the wall, I was already looking past that towards the transition to the next enter. And, that could have been me or, maybe other people felt that way, but maybe that was just me, but every single run I had to constantly tell myself, focus, hit that touch and go. And it's clearly evident when I didn't tell myself that because I didn't every time, and I was mid-track, and then I had to make adjustments. So the times when I did know that, which was it definitely progressively got better throughout the weekend. But with the times I did hit that touch and go, it was evident through the rest of the course that it made everything smoother. You had a nice transition across the center, hit your front flip, and then it set you right up to go in that rear zone, and then the rest of it just played out smooth. So that was the biggest part on lead and follow because that was where the mistakes happened.
So how do you calculate outer zones and like for example hitting that final outer zone and you're transitioning? How do you calculate? Do you look at a point on the track that you normally transition at, or is it just kind of a feeling thing where you're kind of judging distance?
So a lot of it for me is every run's different. Depending on where you come out. Like it, when you have back-to-back runs, when you're coming off that last front clip for the last transition, I know at a point in track where I need to be. Because typically I'm at a same or similar mile an hour, but for a lot of runs, we were changing setup so much, and I wasn't always coming off with not having a ton of runs. I was always setting up a little different for that transition to come into that last rear zone. So mine was just a depth perception and knowing my car. So I know when I jump back on throttle where it's going to be, how it's going to drive out of it, and then how much it's going to float before it catches and goes. Mine was more of the depth perception. This weekend is a feeling. More so than a certain point on the track because more times than not, I was at a different point in the track when I was making that transition, whether it be on a follow or even on a lead as well. So mine was definitely just basing off depth perception, and it didn't bite me in the ass. But they did make a change from Friday going into Saturday for that. Going into that last zone or the last rear zone out there, they painted some on the walls. And that really helped out because with the lighting, I don't want to say it was not great, but it wasn't bad. But I definitely could have used a little bit more lighting right there if they didn't paint the walls. So with tire smoke, with the guys that are throwing down crazy clouds of smoke, and then the lighting was right there in that particular part of the track, and having the white walls going into it Friday night practice was a tough one. I'm glad I stayed off the ball because it could have went either way. Saturday was a lot easier. Because I could kind of judge where I was at. I think they painted red on the walls. I believe that's what it was, if I'm not mistaken. But that really
That
helped
might have
out.
just been cars that hit the wall that painted it red. I don't know, man.
Oh, man, ouch. They both were red, huh? Oops.
I don't know. It could have been them. I don't know, man.
Oh,
There was a lot of cars that hit the wall. It was
Don't paint your car red. You end up in a wall of Jersey.
yeah, it was definitely scary. I definitely felt concerned sometimes. I was like, damn, I hope these people don't kill themselves. Like,
well, you saw the
'cause I know
Miata.
everyone,
You
and
saw
I'm
that
just like, man, I
Miata,
don't know
right?
who
Like
get
the
hurt.
Miata chassis is done. You saw the Miata
bet.
Is
crash.
it done?
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, that's done.
You think Thomas?
Yeah,
Thomas's,
he told me. He said, yeah, the chassis is done.
really?
Yeah,
He's been driven that car for a long time.
17 years.
Oh wow, I ain't driven all that.
Yeah.
How long he's had that done?
That's how
Holy
long
crap,
he
wow.
said he's had it for. 17 years. Yeah, when
Well,
it
I
came
mean, if
off.
you're gonna send it, you're gonna send it off away. That's the way to go. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, hey, at least he came out of it. You know, I'm happy everybody came out of it okay and not hurting, and well, as far as I know, and
There's probably
I
some
mean,
bruises. Probably.
yeah, I
Those-
mean, you know, after your body gets cool, like you start aching the next day. Like I've been there before at E-Town where I hit the wall, and that's not fun. You know what I mean? It sucks. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, you guys are cooking too. I mean, at what speed do you think you're going at that wall?
I would guess I was entering in roughly 60 and then maintaining 35, 40s. Coming across that transition, I was probably low 40s.
Yeah.
Roughly. I need to go back and check my data, but I think that's about where we were at. It was pretty across the board. Most guys were, some of the slower guys were low 30s.
Yeah.
Across most of the track after initiation. Like they'd enter in like low 50s and hang low 30s, and we were like low 60s and low 40s.
Right.
After initiate low 60s and hang high 30s, low 40s coming across that transition. So I'd probably say mid to low 40s going into that last result.
Right. All right. So Reese, in like a competition where you're judging and stuff, how often do you talk to the driver spotters about runs and stuff like that? Is it just kind of change on different times of the competition, or is like there's select time that you guys talk to them, or is it just kind of random when people ask you questions and stuff?
So I think what U.S. Drift and most of the places that I've gone to where we do have those spotter hours or half hours where we can communicate with that spotter or a judge. In Formula Drift, for me, as when I'm a spotter there's a window set out that I need to go speak to the judge, and they try to implement the same thing at every shootout that I've gone to. I do feel that because a lot of the spotters from that level and that grassroots era, they know me or they've seen me before, they've driven with me, they feel comfortable just coming up and just asking the question, where I think maybe sometimes they get a little nervous when they see the other judges because maybe they don't know them or something like that. But I can assure you those guys will give you just as much information, if not better, than I can. And a lot of them do come up. I mean, Linklater's girl would come up, his spotters, Sarah, all the spotters would definitely come up. Alec would come up. I mean, everybody was coming up. Naren's spotter was coming up. So a lot of them would just ask key things. And I think what's really cool is that it's nice that a lot of these people kind of have an education on drifting, because then you can just tell them like, yo man, like outer zone, he needs to get wider. And you don't really need to get into detail on that because they know what that means. You know what I mean? And just that understanding makes that whole, the judge wants you to do this so much easier. And I think sometimes when you don't have someone that understands that terminology or understands those, that understanding of drifting, it could make things a little bit harder. But I think a lot of spotters are definitely starting to take either the spotting position more serious, because you're essentially helping that guy out so much, because they're emotional, they're going through it at the moment in the best way possible, they're focused on other things, and sometimes just having somebody on the radio to say, yo, you did a great run, vastly can change the set for that person, for sure. So I definitely think people definitely take advantage of it, and I do my best to give as much information in a way that I know they'll understand and that doesn't seem too complicated.
Right. I mean, how often are you talking to your spotter, Naren, throughout the event?
Oh, dude, every single run. Like, I don't want to say the spotter's the most important job there, but he is crucial to an event day for me. I mean, our team as a whole, everybody plays an important role for sure. But as far as on the track, I mean, with the information he gives me, I'll do what he tells me to do. With the judges, those are the guys that were critiquing us. So if he gets, that's very important. I'm really glad they do that here. Having to have the spotters being able to talk to the judges and critique them and say, hey, where can my driver improve on? What are you seeing? Are you seeing this something a little funky here or there, or what is he doing that how can he make a 100-point run every time, or how can he improve? And that's plays a crucial part of my whole weekend, because I can do what you want me to do in the car, but if I'm not seeing it as a driver, I can't fix it. So my spotter is seeing that, or the judges are seeing that, and then I take that information and implement it, and that's what makes makes our runs come together either faster or better, and we know we got to work on and improve on. So my spotter is key to what we're doing, especially in getting our lead runs down. Once we get our lead runs down, then we start going into tandems, and kind of and work on it from there. And in competition, talking with him is good job. Like you said, is that can make all the difference between a win and a loss. And it's just sometimes a little pat you on the back a little bit. Good job, dude. You killed it. I'll go out there and be like, hell yeah, I did kill it. And I go out there and lay a good run down because I'm just hyped. Or it could say, hey, watch out. This guy does this at this area in the track. He checks up real here. And and then I already got an understanding of, hey, this guy's he does this here, he checks up here, or he does something funky here. I know it's coming. I'm about to give all these secrets out. Anyway, so
I'm going to give one of your secrets out if that's okay, because one of the interesting conversations we had was you were paired up with the number one qualifier, the truck. And one of the big things that you said was it's a truck, so in the transitions, he transitions really slow. So you had to adjust your follow game to I guess accommodate that. So what exactly did you mean? Just kind of explain that whole situation and how, what do you mean by slower transitions, and how do you have to adjust your driving to, for example, that car or truck? It would
going out and I know how I'm gonna do my lead run now that we got it kind of figured out. On a chase run, it's you're basing your whole goal is to mimic the lead driver. So everybody's car is set up different, everybody's driving style is different. And understanding what they do in a lead run as a chase driver can make or break you winning or not. And if you know ahead of time what they're going to do, you can adapt to that before you even go and run. So with that truck, it's a longer chassis. It appears to be a longer chassis. I don't even know. I don't know much about it. Was it a Dodge D50 or something?
I don't know.
I think it was. I'm not sure.
It's a Datsun something.
Thing's badass. Nils is a great driver, and that truck is rad. So I do love that truck. But following him, and it could have been the truck or it could have been him as a driver. I don't know which one it was. But he transitioned, always trying to come off the touch and go. He'd come off earlier than everybody else does, or at least it appears so. And then also coming out the second front clip, that other long range. Both the transitions basically, he transitioned either sooner or it appeared to be sooner because his truck was so long, and it was a slow transition across the center of the track. So it wasn't just real snappy. You're blazing tire, pinned, and then last minute you snap and you go back. Him, what he did as he was either leaving a touch and go or leaving that last front clip, he started to transition earlier, and he was basically transitioning across the whole center of the track. So it was a nice, slow, flowy transition compared to a lot of guys. So if I would have seen him start to transition and I would snap back like I drive, I would be, 2 car lengths back already transitioned, about to shoot through the middle of the track. So I'd understand I need to transition at the same rate this guy does, so I can suck back up on his door sooner than later as he transitions slowly across the track into the next rear zone. So that was, for example, how I played it on his chase run. My chase run for him.
Aaron did a really good job of that, and he's absolutely right. Nils, because I think of his chassis setup and his vehicle, his transitions are a little bit slower. I think the reason for that is because I mean, I've seen him drive in other areas. I think it's because I don't think the balance is pretty much what maybe we're used to in our 240s and stuff like that. So if he's too snappy with it, I think I don't think that he would over rotate because he has an angle kit. But I think if he were to try to be very snappy, he would lose a lot of momentum and allow the chaser to be able to catch up a lot sooner. So I think he was playing with what he had, but that long booty that he has on that truck, man, you can see that thing ready to make a move a mile away. So if the chase driver was experienced, you can definitely see they knew how to dive in on that. And then the people that were a little bit less experienced, they couldn't read those cues, and that was something very interesting that I see here at the Gambler, and what I saw down in Florida was that there really isn't a difference. Everybody kind of gives that argument like, oh, these pro drivers with these pro cars, and I really beg to differ. It's just really just the pro drivers in general. You guys have so much experience. You guys can almost see into the future that when you see somebody kind of enter into a corner, you're like, all right, dude, I've seen this a million times. This is only going to end one or two ways. And you guys will make that decision and go in. Whereas there's split decisions that you guys have experience on. Some of the other guys that are maybe 5 years or less, just for an example, don't have that quick reflex like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I think that's what really separates people, you know what I mean? And you being able to read the situation that he's like not transitioning as fast as some of the other guys. Like for instance, some of the Corvettes were a little bit snappier because their weight distribution, I'm assuming, so they could chuck their car into a pocket and dig their way out. Whereas I don't think that would be the best option for Nils. And I think drivers like yourself and others that are able to read that situation definitely have an advantage. But that's all just mental game, you know what I mean? And it's cool to see that that's where the driving is starting to get to at this point.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like I said, that's key in our weekend and being able to tackle each individual battle, based on who the driver is. I mean, you have to attack it differently. You can't just set out and go, I'm gonna run this way the whole weekend. Like our chassis setup changed every battle, not drastically, but whether it was tire pressure or dampening or driving style. I had to mentally prepare for that each battle.
Right.
And I think if anything, I think these type of events, and you can and I don't know, you can correct me if I'm wrong there, and if you put your input on this, like I think these type of events are almost harder than, I don't want to say Pro 2, but I mean like, all right, so when you do a Formula Drift event, you know, like, all right, these guys are going to go
same
out.
level.
It's going to be the same level. The cars are kind of the same, but when you come to one of these, you can get thrown anybody, and you would never think, I'm like, oh, I'm going to have to battle a dude with 250 horsepower. Like, that's not going to happen over there. Yeah. That may not happen in some other places, but in these tournaments, in these competitions, that's a reality. And to see that be a thing, and now that has to be something people need to take in consideration, especially when we start doing the jam session comps, jam session qualifying. It was really cool how people were like, man, I got to figure this dude out, because that's kind of like what's around right now. You know what I mean? So I think this might be sometimes a little bit harder from that aspect.
It was definitely one of the hardest events I've went to. And sessions or events like this is definitely crucial to understand that. Like you said, in Pro 2, Pro 1, these guys are, there's not a drastic difference in chassis. They're in car setup, I'll take it back. In speeds, let's leave it speeds. Speeds might be within a window. Here, the window is expanded drastically. So it's very difficult in order to find the happy medium to where you can go against, whoever, a truck, or a low horsepower stock Z, or another Pro 1, Pro 2 built chassis like Wadman's car or Dimitri's car is friggin' fast. His that BMW is sick. We had it on full tilt to go, or not want to say full tilt, but I was gonna give him about 98% to go against Dimitri. I was ready for that battle because it would have been a crazy battle. We'll talk about that later, but like you said, it was definitely that's hard. It's difficult, but to me, I enjoy that because it makes me better as a driver and our team, and to understand that and to play with. I mean, it's kind of fun playing with the chassis setup and seeing what the car does. We had a little different. We played with some different things we hadn't really adjusted with. I mean, we'd adjusted, but our setup this weekend was different than anything I've ever ran. So it was just fun to kind of learn and be able to do that with the car. Friday I probably looked okay, but there was probably a couple runs I looked like a bag ass. But it was just changing different stuff. I mean, we played with tires and bars and our compression and rebound on our shocks, and tire pressures were huge. And we played with some front toe settings.
Yeah.
So
what did you think of the new qualifying way of the jam sessions? Because that was very interesting. It really, I don't know. There is, I very mixed reviews I've heard from that so far. So, but
listen, what I love about it is that you can't. So, like, I get it. I know this is like the first time somebody tries something and they're just like, I don't know, but like people are gonna come back and want to do this because if you do it right, you almost get to scout. From a driver's perspective, you get to scout more people, right?
Right.
And you get to get kind of a feel for the chasing. But what I love about this the most is that your qualifying score not only just depends on your lead run now, a solo run, it depends on you chasing as well too. So like, there's been a lot of times where I'm like, you know what? Even in the professionals, like, if they were to calculate both, qualifying would be vastly different. Because some dudes just don't know how to chase. Like, that's just a fact. Some people you're a great lead driver, but like you're like an okay chaser. That's a thing. Like I don't think it's a secret. I think people know that. You can see it in their eyes. Like, they can lead, but as soon as you say chase, their attitude changes a little bit because they know it's like, damn, bro, it isn't just about full throttle, digging out of a corner, doing this. You have to be adaptable. You have to adhere to somebody else. You have to kind of really show that you got that skill to do it. And I really enjoyed that. You know what I mean? I really enjoyed watching these dudes go run after run after run. I think what sucked for most people is at the same time you have that opportunity to keep on going out, but having those opportunities can bite you in the ass because if you go out too many times and you mess up too many times, you're in a really bad spot. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a give and take thing. You get more opportunities doing it this way, and you essentially get more practice, and the organizers essentially get more of a show. But if you don't take it serious and you mess up too many times, it's going to bite you, and that's where that take comes. So they'll give it, but it's going to take away too. So there's still going to have to be some sort of thing. But now I always tell everyone, I think it's an amazing thing that we tried this, but as you can all see and as we saw, qualifying doesn't mean anything when the battles start. You know what I mean? So I think it's a really great way to kind of put more of a show. I think it's great for the drivers because they get to practice more in a battle type setting because there really wasn't a lot of single runs after they said, no, just have them tandem. So I think in that aspect, it helps out a lot. I can see how some people were a little uneasy of it, but I don't think it's going to change at all. I think people are going to enjoy it a lot more. And I think a lot of the dream battles are going to start happening in these jam sessions that you normally wouldn't see anywhere else. So if you look at it from a different perspective, I think there's a lot of pluses, and I just don't see enough negatives to say, nah.
Yeah, you're turning me, Reese. You're turning me. I like it. I was on the fence this weekend for a couple reasons. It was with us not ever running the track. We were out there just blazing, trying to get as many runs as we could. And like I said, it could bite you in the ass. We qualified 16th. We had some killer lead runs. Throughout the week and throughout Friday, we had some good lead runs that should have theoretically probably put us in the top 5, I would guess. But it was like you said, so it can bite you in the ass by doing a lot of runs. We had a couple of zeros. I just pulled out. I didn't know they were counting every single run, and that was something I should have clarified and asked with them. But whenever one of my lead runs, I came in and was just trying something. We were trying different types of setup, and I flicked it real hard and went over rotate. I could have saved it and left foot braked and made an e-brake checked and made it work and worked my way around the track. But it was, to me, it was a blown run, so I just came out of it. I wasn't gonna make it work, so I just came out of it. And had I known I was gonna do that, maybe I would have changed how I did that run. And then Reese had mentioned, you're following guys, and this is the first time out. You have to adapt to those guys and not having either little to no information on them. With my spotter, we only had just a little bit of what they had in that first practice. And with most everybody learning a new track, a lot of that data is fluid. Change. Huh?
It's obsolete.
Yeah, I mean? Right. It's fluid. It changed throughout the day. And it's pretty much obsolete, like you said. So some of the guys we were chasing, we were being probably a little too aggressive and didn't. There's a couple times I just came out of it. I drove in on, I think it was Wadman. I think he had a slower transition, or he did something funky, and I was about to hit his door, so I just got on the brakes and came out of it. If I would have been more patient, it would had a different ending. But with that being said, the jam session style is cool. It was my first time ever doing it. And it was, like I said, it puts you in some battles that you probably see in the competition earlier in the day. I liked it, especially for the fans and spectators, that they're getting to see constant battles and they're staying engaged. Like qualifying, regular style, lead run, chase run. It's cool, but it does tend to drag out sometimes. And this is just full out like competition battles almost. People are smart about it, more so. But it's just it keeps the show going, and so that part was rad. I did like that, and only part from a driver aspect, like I said, was not having many notes, and so I should have been more patient with some guys, and it might have come out a different way. However, I wouldn't want it to come out a different way because this weekend obviously turned out really well. I typically do qualify well, and that's just based off lead run stuff because once I get our lead run down, throughout the weekend or up until qualifying, I'm just hit the same run. It's just repetition. So usually I do typically qualify at least fairly well. But just do all that. do all that all. But it was it was cool though.
I think you said this was your worst qualified event ever. Am I correct?
Yeah, up until this is the worst I've ever qualified, other than one other time where I qualified 16th. And at NDU, like round 1, which I actually came back and won that event too. So 16th is where it's at. Yeah, I was on the bubble. So they only ran at tops. This was 2015. I was my last year pro-am. I went and ran one round of MDU. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but long story short, they had a bunch of drivers out there, all really good. And my first run, I blew it. I over-rotated and had a 0. So, you not just have 16 people. There's like 20, 30. I think there's like 30 drivers. They only run a top 16. So that next run, I'm like, gotta lay one down. I can't lay too much down because I don't want to over-rotate again. So you're in your head a little bit. And I squashed it. I went and laid just enough down. I mean, it was smooth and it was aggressive enough. And anyway, qualified top 16. Qualified 16th in a top 16. I was on the bubble, made. Then I went and won that event. So that was the last time I qualified 16th. I wasn't pumped going into Saturday, but I had to do a reset and then get into competition mode.
Yeah, it's definitely a different. I could definitely see a lot of people were just kind of like taken back from it, and like you said, that's where the opportunity, that's where the give comes. Like in a typical setting, the way we were brought up, we have 2 qualifying runs, and if you screw the pooch, well, that's it. Here, you kind of have more of an opportunity. You know what I mean? And I do think, and I think, the judges, myself, we all sat down and said, maybe they didn't understand this format, which we kind of thought that was going to happen. Somebody didn't know this or didn't know how. And I hope when people see this video, they understand, like, it was really just, we've always wanted to do this. It's always been something that's been talked about and stuff like that. And, it would be really cool. And then it happened.
Yeah.
And we're not saying it's perfect. I think it's going to get better as time goes on, as people get adequate to it. I do want to make sure next time to really, make sure everybody knows, like, listen, like, if you're going to go out there, don't just throw a run away just to throw it away. Like
Yeah.
you have to put down a run every time you step on that track. It's to put down something good because it's qualifying. And I think the jam session stuff. I think the only thing that people were doing incorrectly there is, there was quite a few people getting too aggressive, and I'm like, man, you're really putting yourself in a danger zone, because if something were to happen unintentionally, obviously, it kind of messes you up. And we weren't, if anybody was like a car maybe two away, but you could see what they were trying to do, he would essentially get better scores. But then when things really started getting that's when we would tell people the battles, obviously just dive in there and do what you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was kind of like the judge's way of kind of allowing the drivers to tiptoe their way and get comfortable with the tandem.
Yep.
So I think the next time they do something like this, I think people will have a better understanding. Maybe we'll
absolutely,
force people to ask more questions. And because I know every time, I remember when I was driving and people say, anybody have questions, we would just keep our mouth shut because we just want to go drive.
That's totally the reason why, by the way.
Yeah.
But you guys up in Jersey and Northeast, you're like, I just want to go drive. Forget it. Yeah, no questions. We're good. Other areas.
They're looking at me like, yeah, wrap it up, dude. Let's go do this. And I'm like, all right, you sure? And I kind of did it for everybody else. I'm just like, hey, are you sure nobody else needs anything? But I think it did pretty good, and I think it's just going to get better as it marinates. If I can say it anyway.
No, I like the marinating. I really like it. I'm looking forward to doing it again with all the knowledge that I've gained from this event and understanding the concept of it. This is brand new to me, and but it was good and bad. The bad side of things of that was sometimes the competitive advantage is not running the guy ahead of time. You may see in competition. Granted, it was qualifying, so you don't know who you're going to see anyway, but if that's less notes that your competitor has on you. If you say you run them in qualifying,
well, you only have to run 4 runs, technically.
Yeah, but I ran like freaking 15 or something.
I'm just saying. All you got to do is run 4, and you're.
I'll talk about that in a minute with the reason we did so many runs. But sometimes the competitive advantage is just how good is your spotter? How good is your driver? Just looking at notes and not actually running the car, head to head. Because if you run a car, you know what it's doing. You know how fast it is. Unless the guy's playing games, then you're basing it off just solely what your notes are when you see in competition. So it's can be a competitive advantage. But so aside from that, I really like the fast style qualifying. We did a ton of runs for a couple reasons. 2, I was comfortable, but with as many setup changes we do, and this can bite a lot of people in the ass too, but luckily I've been in this chassis for a while. Not saying, I'm better than anybody else at, changing setup and adapting to it, but, the more you have seat time in a chassis, if you make a change, you kind of know what it's going to do. But even still, we weren't totally dialed in on Friday, so we were getting accustomed to the track, because every track is different, So we're getting accustomed to the track with the setups we were putting in there. So we did as many laps as we could to understand more about the other drivers, understand more about the car and how it reacts to the surface of this track at different temperatures throughout the day. It was basically just a full-on go out there and run as many as you can so we can get as much notes as we can to prepare for Saturday. Gotcha. So we look like crap sometimes in qualifying.
He took a gamble.
Hey, I see what you did there. Gambler.
So, what's some feedback that you guys have heard from the event itself? Have you guys heard much from other people? Like, what's kind of been the word on the street that you guys have been seeing?
Man, why didn't I fucking drive this event, bro? I should have just done all right. That's what I heard, bro. I'm like, well, no shit. I've been trying to tell you guys to come do it. Yeah, well, bro, blah, blah. That's what I've been hearing. You know what I mean? So, I should have drove this event. I'm like, well, yeah. A
couple less pros, but yeah, same thing down here.
You know what I mean? But I think that's just a driver thing. Like, I would have done all right there. It's like, yeah, I mean, I expect every driver to say that. But I think overall, I think it was a good event because it happened, especially with the way things are right now in our country, in our certain area. It was just kind of nice to see what I see down south up here for a change. And it was just kind of like a slice of normality. and it was cool. Everybody was kind of just happy and enjoying it and living it up, and it was nice. It was a nice break from what we usually have to deal with from Monday through Friday.
Yeah, some Southern boy came up and just won this event in New Jersey's heart. Like, are you gonna let him do that? I mean,
why you gotta turn Jersey against me like all at once? I love Jersey. Matter of fact, I was telling Reese that Englishtown is like my favorite track until I ran Road Atlanta, and I'm not even saying Road Atlanta is better. Those are my two favorite tracks I've ever ran for different reasons. But no lie, E-Town has got my heart, so deal with that, Jersey. I love it. No, but I'll probably say one of the best events I ever had to date was East Coast Bash, which is happening this weekend. Right, it's happening to start on Friday.
Yeah, starts on Friday. Yeah.
It was like 2013, 2014, maybe 2015. I think I went a couple of those years, and man, yeah, can't wait to go back again. It was no lie, it was probably the best week I've ever had a drift. Period.
We call it the golden years.
The golden years. Is that saying we're old or just us saying need to get back at it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I need to get back at it.
Are you driving, Reese? I mean, I know you teach on a regular.
Yeah, I just put it. I wish I had the finances to do both, but as you know, you can't do that. It's if you're going to be a driver, you put so much into that. And I look at it this way that drifting has given me so much that I guess it's just kind of my way of giving back and kind of changing what I think should be done. I mean, I can drive and people know I can drive, but it's like I've kind of given up the whole. I don't believe in the whole like who's the best driver. I always kind of look at it like, well, who's the best driver that day? Because now that I understand judging and stuff like that, so it's I feel like as long as there's drivers like myself and many others that do this, all around the country to try to make sure drifting goes in the right direction, I'm sure I'll see you either judging the event or doing something later on, because I think that's just the natural progression of us.
Absolutely.
But as soon as I'm able to, I'm dealing with a lot of back issues the last couple of years, some nerve damage and stuff like that. But as soon as that's taken care of and things are a little bit more adequate and maybe we get back to normality, all these school cars that I have, I may bring one of those out and definitely throw down with all my homies and stuff like that. It's I definitely have that East Coast style, but in the meantime, if I can do anything to kind of help overall, I'm going to do that as well.
I love what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Giving back, like for real, I love it. That's amazing. I don't know if you guys know what Reese does. I guess everybody that follows you probably does, but training and helping the new generation, the new guys, or just even helping guys like myself. I definitely would take input all day from Reese. Just anywhere you can help improve just the sport in general and the drivers that are in it. That just will make us just go that much further as far as being pro series and something that everybody gets to, whether it's grassroots or fun events or competition wise.
Well, like you were talking about earlier, Reese, I mean, all the spotters seem to now, for the most part, understand what you're talking about when you say, well, you need to get reach more of this certain outer zone or something like that. And it seems like the knowledge of drifting and understanding the lingo and understanding what the actual goal is and what you're trying to do is just growing itself.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of us, such as myself. I mean, I jokingly make it a point to shove this information down people's throats now because, one, it's a safety concern. I mean, I always tell people, stop chopping the line, stop doing this, and I say it in a very upsetting way, but it's really to get people's attention that hey, this could potentially hurt someone, or you could cut the line and crash into someone, and nobody wants to cost anybody any money, you know what I mean? So it's one of those things where I think with people such as myself and Chelsea and so many other people that have been pumping this information out and kind of giving diagrams, and I know Ryan Lansing from Formula Drift has been making videos of breaking how judging is down, kind of allows us to allows the public to say, there is a method to this madness. There isn't just going sideways. They want us to put the car in certain places, and the car can't have a characteristic, or the balance of the car can't get disrupted, or else that's going to be something that gets deducted. So I think it's taking a long time because drifting is very young. Now people accept it. Now we have to wait for people to understand it. And I think when people understand it, one, the judging is going to get a lot harder because we're going to be held more accountable because more common people are going to understand it. And
Yep.
two, you know, maybe way back in the day, years ago, drivers used to play tricks. And I think a lot of that is going to become less and less and less and less. And I think it has become less and less because the general public and spectators can visually see that and understand, like, yo, man, you weren't supposed to do that. You know what I mean? Like, a prime example is I love Forrest Wang. Yeah, I love his style. I love how he drives. But in Jersey a couple years ago, there was that huge discussion about, oh, he got angle and then Forsberg hit him. And what the spectators and a lot of general public didn't understand is that the drivers were told that they weren't allowed to decel in that area aggressively. And although it looked cool, that wasn't allowed at that particular moment during competition to be throwing that angle. So I think as people start to understand this more and more and start understanding when it's appropriate to do certain maneuvers or flashy moves in drifting, more accountability, better presentation, better driving, better judging, better events is all going to start funneling into one.
Fully agree.
For sure. Cool, man. Well, this is awesome conversation. I mean, we branched off on a lot of different things, but overall, I mean, it's another great competition. It's kind of nice that it's not so far away, that this one's a little closer, at least to me.
For real, dude.
I mean, it's still far away from there. Again, if you guys enjoyed this, be sure to check these guys out. I want to give quick plugs to where they can find you at.
You'll find me at Reese Marin on Instagram. If you guys need any help with instruction or any questions or anything like that at all, just like Aaron said, I'm always here to help and direct people and guide them in the best way possible. So that's where you can find me there. Same thing, just type in Reese Marin on Facebook, and you'll see me pop up there as well too.
Absolutely. Good deal. I'm easy enough. Jonathan Nairn on the gram, Facebook, Jonathan Nairn Racing.
Cool. Yep. All right. Thanks, guys, for coming out, or not coming out, but like getting on the old Zoom chat call, talking about the event, and I will see everyone next time. See ya.
Yep.
All right, dude. I'll see you around. See you
Later,
later.
fellas. Later, Reese.
Later.